It's hard to believe that a game seen by millions online that has traveled to conventions and even has a plushie all started with a Kickstarter that barely reached half of its goal. Although now this game is a success, the story for how it got here is kinda crazy. Below the Stone is a pixel art roguelike where you adventure deep through caves, mining resources, and fighting enemies to expand your kingdom and delve deeper than before, and it's out now in early access on Steam. So go and get it. The team has a few members now, but it started as a small project with Mike and Andrew with only one real goal in mind: to make a good game. At least, I think. Let me ask Mike. Hi, Mike.
Well, hello.
Oh, I got a well hello.
Well, hello there.
What really was your guys' end goal with Below the Stone at the start?
Well, to make a good game. But other than that, I found like a lot of it was just us making mistakes at the beginning. It wasn't necessarily like we went in with all right, here's the concrete plan. This is exactly how we're going to do things. There was no like game design document. Andrew was a fan of Dwarf Fortress at the time and mining games, and I love dwarves. I showed him this idea for a game. I was like, let's come up with a name for it, and would you be interested in working on this thing together?
Development went well at first, and as progress happened, the team posted sneak peeks of the game to social media, and due to Andrew's epic coding and Mike's beautiful artwork, they started to get a following for the project. As more people checked out their game and wanted to see more, this sparked the idea into their minds that maybe they had something special, and in order to realize the idea, they needed to turn to crowdfunding to make it all happen. I'm talking about Kickstarter. And they made sure their page was really good. They even had an animated short created just for it. Those aren't cheap. The team was excited to see the project succeed, but the amount raised slowed down until the very last days where they met a sad outcome. The project didn't meet the $10,000 goal. In fact, it only made around half of what they expected. And on Kickstarter, if you don't reach your goal, you receive none of the money you raised. So shoot, where do you even go from there? Apparently you go to a bunch of conventions all over. You'd expect the story to end at the failed Kickstarter, but no. The team used this as a sign to work harder, do more, and come back stronger. The game was showed off at various conventions, which was met with an overall positive response. What was it like going to conventions and showing off your game to people in person?
When it came to going to these conventions and actually having people play it for the first time, we ended up learning a lot. It wasn't just the experience that you get when you just see like a friend play it, or somebody you know from the family, or like somebody online, just anybody. Like when you get to see the person's face smiling, or like you get to see like, okay, I was a little confused at this point. There's a different experience to that, right? And it teaches you so much more, and it's always fun to meet up with fans and meet new fans and be together with the whole team.
Alright, we took it to conventions. A bunch of people are liking it. What do we do now? We run it back to the Kickstarter. This time they had more game to show, better rewards, the page was better, and they even had a really amazing trailer, might I say, that was edited by me. This time they also asked for $20,000, double what they asked the first time, and they were confident that they could hit this amount. And they did. Not only did they hit the $20,000, they doubled it and they got $40,000. That's so cool. That is such a cool story to hear. They started off, they had a Kickstarter that failed. They went back and then they worked on it. They came back and it succeeded. That is so cool. Your second Kickstarter funded in just 81 hours. I think you were fully expecting it to fund the second time around, but were you expecting it to happen that fast?
We came in way more prepared than the first time. The first time, we went in with a lot of mistakes. We had a long talk. Is it like rude to ask for 20,000 when we didn't get the 10,000 the first time? There was a lot of fear in what we were doing, but we were cautiously confident in what we were doing. I remember being on the plane to one of these conventions, right? I knew I was going to be without internet for a while, early morning hours to launch this thing, and then get on the plane and fly out. I remember landing. By the time I landed, it was at 69 $800. That already surpassed the full campaign of the first one.
Now let's make this story even cooler. They actually had a publisher the second time, and the publisher was a side effect from the first failed Kickstarter. The failure of the first Kickstarter was a success in that it marketed the game and more people got to know about it. Even though it wasn't a success, publishers got to see the game, and that's how Below the Stone ended up getting published by Apogee Entertainment, who are known for making the Duke Nukem games. The support that Apogee provided allowed the game to travel to many different conventions, and people playing the game in person gave the team a lot of really useful feedback, which they used to make the game better than before. Now with a publisher and the funding from the Kickstarter, it was time to get up to some serious business. Updates on development progress were happening much faster now. Every single month, the Kickstarter got a new update post showing off new content and features added to the game, all leading up to a demo. Mike even appeared on the OTK Games Expo and talked about the game in front of millions of people. How did it feel being on the OTK Games Expo stream in front of so many people live?
This was an interesting story. We were given like a very brief preview of what this was going to be like before getting onto the show. The stream started, there's millions of people watching. They asked us to go into a Discord channel and somebody joins up. I end up like talking with them for a little bit and I could tell it was a busy show. They asked me like, do you have any questions about what's about to happen? I don't even remember the question. It was just some useless question like, wait, let me think of a question off the top of my head. Oh yeah, this. And then my actual questions started coming into my head. I was like, okay, I gotta ask this next. And he's like, all right, I have to go. So, yeah, anyway, bye. And then he like disappears. I'm just there by myself now, waiting to hear what happened. And somebody joins this channel that I'm sitting in, and I hear the stream in the background. I'm like, hey, do you hear me? Hello? I wanted to ask something. And before I could like get my question out, all I hear is, and next up is Below the Stone. And all the color in my skin just like sinks, like it all disappears. I freeze up. It is so bad.
What's the game development journey been like for you?
It's like, you know, we started,
They had like a public vote of like your favorite games at the show, and we ended up winning number 3.
Just a few months later, the demo was released and more people were finally able to play the game. The really cool part about having a demo is that players will give you a lot of really good early feedback that can be used to help the game have a much more successful launch. The team wanted to get the full game into the hands of players as soon as possible and to build it out alongside them, so they chose to launch the game into early access a few months after the demo. I worked once again editing the trailer, and the team making Below the Stone is an incredibly generous and passionate group of people. This story spanned 4 years, and yet it's still just the start for Below the Stone. In fact, they just released the Dwarven Drip Date, which added a bunch of new cosmetics to the game as I'm making this video, and they have a ton more in store through all of 2024 and beyond. If you're interested in Below the Stone, consider subscribing to see content and future updates. And if you don't have the game, check the link in the description and get it now. The caves are calling.